Project 7. Hi, Joe Cerrone here. We're going to be working on this memo block holder. In the last video, I showed you how to model this using AutoCAD, and you can just click on this link right here for the instructions on how to use AutoCAD to model that. You're welcome to use other CAD softwares. The way the textbook is written, it's really basically giving you the dimensions and then the modeling techniques. And depending on the software that you'll use, they're a little bit different. And so I'll go through and show you how to model these. This is a really cool assignment. You can also, if it was something that I would modify on this, I'd probably add a pen holder or something, because I can't never seem to find a pen when I need one. Alright, so let's take a look at the next step. The next step would be to put this into the slicer. Now what they're using is a 3D printer with a 0.4 millimeter layer height, and they're using this up 3D printer. And the print time they're estimating at 33 minutes. So let's see how that works. We're going to slice it in the Dremel software, and so here's my Dremel software. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and open it. Hopefully I have it saved. There it is, Project 7. And then we're going to orientate it in the slicer. So as we look at it, it's on its side. We could print it this way, but what would happen is as it started printing, it's a fused deposit modeler, and so as it starts to print, everything up to about here would be fine. But once it starts to go here, it would need support material enabled, which is possible to do. We just come down over here and we can enable support material. But it would be much easier and quicker to orientate it in a different position so that when we print it, it doesn't require support material. So I'm going to rotate it down 90 degrees, and then I'm going to say lay flat, click off the part. I'm going to take a look at the settings within the slicing software. Now, to get information on how to use the software, if you go into D2L and you look at the site for Mastering Cura, and there's a link in there. It's called Mastering Cura. I was going to try to select it for this link, but I think you'll be able to find it. So what Mastering Cura does is it tells you what all these settings are in the slicer, and they're pretty much identical for the Ultimaker as they are for the Dremel DigiSlicer. And then it also goes through things like how cooling works, and let's go from the top to the bottom. Here we are. So it goes through the interface and gives you information on how to edit your print settings. And it also gives you models that you can test. And so, for example, we've been using horizontal expansion. And we use horizontal expansion when we print something like this Ultimaker sign, where we would print the letters using horizontal expansion, and we would take them down like minus 0.2 so that they would be small enough that they would fit into the shape of the negative letter void. And so it explains to you how horizontal expansion works, and this would be a 20 millimeter cube that you would print out and then measure it. And if it measures 20 millimeters, you're right on. But if it isn't, then you can tweak the settings with horizontal expansion to get it to the exact size. Other things, Z-seam alignment, enable Z-seam alignment. Enabling fill between gaps and walls. There's a number of different areas in here, and we'll try to explore those as we go through the course. But I wanted to point that out in this video. There are some other places to get the knowledge for how to use the slicer rather than just from the videos and from the guys in the class. So that's the Mastering Cura website, and if you Google Mastering Cura, you can find that. So we brought our memo holder into the Dremel DigiSlicer. We orientated the part. We set it for PLA, polylactic acid. Low quality is usually fine. Low quality, if you look at this, it says 0.3 millimeters. Okay, if we wanted to go and look at a 0.4, do we have one? We do not. And so 0.3, their lowest quality, is still pretty high. The smaller the number, the higher the quality, or the higher. And so what it does is it just makes these thinner extruded components. All right, so we'll prepare this. And then we'll take a look at it. We'll click on the eyeball and we'll go to layers. And then we can see the layers as we go through. And we can slide down, see how we're doing with that. Okay, so there's our first layer, second layer, third layer. When we get to the 8th layer, we're starting to work with the infill. If we take a look at our infill pattern, we can change it if we don't want a grid. And if you use semi-transparent, it's kind of cool if we wanted to go with triangles. Now, whenever you make a change on the slicer, you have to re-slice it or re-prepare it. And so this would be triangles. It's about the same print time still, so there's no real difference. I think I'm going to set it back to the squares because I'm not really keen about the way that it put these on an angle. All right. So this looks great. It's going to be able to print in 1 hour and 28 minutes. The project's files name is given right here. You're welcome to change the file names if you want. You just click on the little pencil. I'm not sure why it puts D3 on every one of them, but we can do that. And then save it to the removable drive. And what that will do is that will save it as a G-code file, JC Project 7 G-code. And I'm not going to eject it because I want to show you what the G-code file looks like. If I go to look at my removable drive, hopefully I can find it. Let's see, put it in a directory. Good. So there it is. There's my G-code file. And if I open it, let's open it with Notepad. And we can see our G-code. And so here's our G-code file. And basically these are codes that are used by the printer to drive the printhead. And it works on the same type of codes, or a similar coding process, as the CNC machines that we use in metal cutting or computer machining, computer numerical control, CNC machining. And so these are the movements of the head, these G1s. M codes are typically miscellaneous codes, and we'll start to work on figuring out just exactly which codes do what on our 3D printer. But you can do quite a bit once you start to understand the entire process. And so that's the codes that run the printers, and that's the file that we will then use to upload into the Dremel 3D 45s to print the parts. All right. That's about it for this part. What I'm going to have you do is to prepare the file and put the G-code file in the Dropbox with the assignment as well. All right, that completes this video.